ask for is nomination for chairperson, because Councillor Rose will be missing the December 15th meeting, would be to chair this meeting and the December 15th meeting.
I'd nominate Mayor Cox.
Yes. I'll accept, unless there's someone else.
Call for nominations again. Call for nominations a third time. Do you accept?
I do.
Okay.
All right.
The first thing is to swear in.
Swearing Councillor Emter.
Yes.
Yay! Yeah, he gets to be deputy mayor.
Right down, yeah.
Oh, he's gonna
You
read
can
it.
hold that if you want to read that.
Sure. No pants.
Yeah.
No,
We're gonna hide my
we're just
pajamas.
saying head and shoulders.
Yeah, thanks.
Or just maybe move a little over, that's where the more consistent background.
Where are we going here?
Just right there.
And you want me going like this?
You see his arm?
Or you want to switch it so that, or
You can't use
You want me to go on this side?
no, that's somehow you can somehow you can maybe Brian.
I'll hold it. You can read it.
All right.
No, but I want to have you face to face. I want to have
Face
you.
to you?
Yeah.
All right.
After you tell you to switch.
Okay.
No, then you put your arm behind your back or something.
Hide my arm?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't want to look like you're dying.
That's gonna look goofy as hell. It doesn't matter. All right. So here, I'll go like that, so you can see it. I, Quentin Emter, do swear that I will diligently and faithfully, and to the best of my ability, execute according to the law the office of Deputy Mayor for the Town of High Prairie from November 10th, 2015 until June 30th, 2016. Sworn before me at the Town of High Prairie in the province of Alberta this 10th day of November 2015. Or 22nd or whatever it is today. 24th, that's so close.
I'll take one more. All right, good.
All right.
It's
Who's left to be deputy mayor?
Debbie, Brian, and Debbie and Ryan. That's it. Because Michael was first, then Trevor, then me,
I'll have to
then
snap that
Clinton,
after.
then Debbie and Ryan, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The sequence.
Okay, I'll turn the
We
meeting
go in
over to
alphabetical after that.
Mayor Cox.
Okay. So, the adoption of the agenda. Are there any errors? Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
And are there any additions, errors, or omissions?
I would like to move item number 7 high up, or, to be fair, I'd like to postpone it so when the 6 councillors are here to discuss it.
I'm not sure how
And
that.
she's going on November 15th, so it would have to be January. Are you here in January?
January 8th.
And then we're moving towards the early bird registration and the rooms registration.
Well, January 8th though, it could be done. Right? I'd love it tonight, but then if it's going to be somebody else who wants their fair say, right?
I'm not sure, because I wasn't here at the last meeting, so,
Neither was I.
and I believe that from the discussions, Debbie has always, Councillor Rose has always supported.
That's right. So
The
she's a
educational.
proponent. I'm against it. Michael's against it. Donna's against it.
Okay, so there will be enough,
So
alright,
it's going to be worth now. I need to convince one of the 3 remaining. So, but I want to be fair that because there's no sense that Debbie feels, you know, like, well, Quentin, you know, that wasn't fair. I wasn't here. So I'd rather all 6 of us chatted about it.
okay,
So I'd like to move it to the January 12th.
I can check on the bookings for
okay.
the meeting.
So January 12th,
And if
but
it is-
no later than January 12th. And the reason I say that is that recreation,
Yeah. I understand.
yes, and
I
that
understand.
one, okay. So it will be settled at the January 12th meeting.
Yeah.
All right. So, does anyone else have anything to say further on that? No?
Pardon me?
Are you okay with January 12th?
That way everybody's here.
That way everybody's here.
Okay. And we get to do our spiel about why it's important again. All right.
Sure.
Any other amendments to the agenda? Nope. Can I then call for a vote? All in favor? Carried. Scheduled delegations of the RCMP, it is so nice. Please come forward, Sergeant Bourgeois. Did I get that one right?
Bourguignon.
Bourguignon. Oh,
Hi,
I just like those soft G's. Bourguignon is
That's
so
right.
harsh. Come forward, who's your cohort?
So this is Constable Jarrett Lyons. He's been almost a year, actually a year today is his anniversary of graduating from Depot. So
Oh.
he was in the office and I brought him up.
And you Shanghai him, I believe, Jarvis. As
What's
in
that?
Shanghai, as in, come, you'll enjoy it.
He has been, and he's been doing a terrific job. Terrific job.
So you've been here with us a whole year, have you?
I've been in service for a whole year, been in High Prairie almost a year, so.
Where did you, when you came out of Depot, where'd you go?
We were seconded to Ottawa for 2 months.
Oh.
So we did that for 2 months and then I came to my post here.
Oh, okay. And what was your name again?
Jared.
Jared.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Sergeant Bourguignon.
Michael,
Michael,
there we go.
what can you tell us? I see we have a report.
Yes, so you have the report there. It's the enhanced drug unit, enforcement unit there, going over what they have been working on. And then in addition to this as well, of course, we had the murder that had occurred here in the area. If you're aware of the homicide that occurred, and we were fortunate that we had some very good work that was done on that on our end. When the major crime unit came up, they took over the investigation as per their mandate, and they actually did give a nod to the detachment, saying that there was some great work done, and it really made their efforts quite a bit easier. They were here for approximately a day and a half and had wrapped things up. So we had located the person that was responsible for it. They're remanded right now, waiting for their things to progress through court. And it was good for us that we were able to get the suspect in custody without any harm to him, the public, or to our members. And there was a volatile situation, so there was the opportunities for it. And we were just fortunate that our training persevered, and everyone did a very good job. So my hat's off to everyone that worked on it, and the cooperation that we had from some of the people in the community too was very good.
Oh.
And then we also did get some cooperation from neighboring detachments that gave us some bodies, because we had to maintain the scene for a few days while we were waiting for everything to be wrapped up. Scene to be processed by Peace River Forensic Identification Section. Then we also had Dog Band coming from High Level. We had MCU coming out of Edmonton, their main team, and of course they built people from all over the place. And then we had some members come from Peace River and also from McLennan to give us a hand with doing scene security. So works as a very good team. It was well done. It was good
Where was
exercise.
the scene of the crime?
In a tick bag.
In Timmins. Was it on the First Nations?
It was, yes. And then the person that was responsible for that was also our suspect for the shooting that occurred in High Prairie just 4 days before that. So we had sort of narrowed down who our suspect was. We finally got cooperation from some of the witnesses, because they weren't forthcoming with information at first. When we had narrowed it down, then unfortunately the homicide happened afterwards. So we'll just silence that.
I believe that was shortly after our meeting that we had at the fire hall.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like within a week. So I was hoping that was further evidence as to why that unit should be stationed here.
Well, I see there's not one shot. Oh yeah.
Anything you want to highlight out of your report? This is the drug enhancement.
This is the drug enhanced unit. They assisted another, there was a murder that had occurred in Prince George. We sent our guys there for just over a day to give them a hand, and that was to get them used to working with the other teams. And we also get that reciprocation from other detachments as well. So just to bring it to you that even though they are funded by you, their time was paid for by the Prince George, or I always get PG and GP mixed up. The Grand Prairie detachment paid for their services. They went their own overtime, and they were able to assist them. And it helps us out too that we develop those relationships. So that's just why it was happening there.
I'm glad you switched it back to Grand Prairie, because I was thinking that's like a 6.5 hour drive one way. And
I've worked in a few different, well, 3 different provinces now, and I do that sometimes. I always get mixed up.
PGGP, yeah.
Yeah. And then we also did have the They executed a warrant here recently and they actually seized 19 firearms. So it was another good effort by that team. And of course, it's their work that really progressed and allowed us to do that because it was through source information and also from their investigations that had led to this. So 19 firearms off the streets. That's a pretty good haul. And also there were some drugs taken there as well. So we're still seeing that there's drugs and the firearms go hand in hand. So whatever we can get those warrants executed.
This is the third year, isn't it, of our enhanced police?
We're in the third year now, I believe.
We're in the third year now. And is it the same people, the same undercover, or the same personnel?
No. So we have Corporal Billick, who's been in it now for about a year and a half. He took over from Mark McDougall. And then we also have Constable Brent Lawson, who took over for Didier Gingras, who just left in May and went off to Red Deer Alert. So we were training new people up, and we've just been advised that Constable Lawson is going to be transferred. We just don't know when that's going to happen, but we've already got the selection made for who's going to be taking that spot, and we're just waiting to do the announcements, just confirm a few things. We will have our person trained up before Constable Lawson leaves. Well, we're hoping he'll be here until probably spring, if not summer,
Okay.
before he is gone.
So regarding your detachment report,
Yes, I thought this time I would just go through and give you a breakdown of what we're seeing just in the High Prairie area itself. And I'll run through the numbers quickly so I won't take up much of your time. But this month alone, or in October alone, we had 25 false alarms, 8 abandoned vehicles, 10 suspicious people that were reported. We also had 14 reports, and they were things that weren't really police related, but that we ended up dealing with. So we ended up scoring it as assistance to general public. Dealing with that, we had 7 reports of theft under 5,000, 5 thefts from vehicles, a theft over 5,000, 7 thefts, sorry, I had 5 thefts from vehicles. So someone went into a vehicle and stole things. Then we had 7 vehicles that were stolen, 5 possession of stolen property over 5,000, 1 possession of stolen property under 5,000, 50 reports of mischief. That would be vandalism. Sometimes it would be someone that's in a residence that's obstructing as well the enjoyment of that person's freedoms. So 50 mischief, 1 theft of a credit card, 3 B&Es to businesses, 9 B&Es to homes, 2 other B&Es. So that could be cottages or just even a compound, anything else like that. Sex assault, 1. 4 criminal harassment complaints, 7 utter threats, 5 assault with weapon, 22 assaults, 1 pointing a firearm, 1 assault to a PO. And then we're also looking at 5 possession of drug charges, 1 for cocaine, 4 for marijuana. And that doesn't include the ITU, this is just the normal detachment. 19 collisions, 6 impaireds, which includes a refusal. Then we also had 12 other impaired investigations that were cleared other than through criminal charges. So those would be your 24-hour or 72-hour suspensions. And then also we had 9 reports under the Mental Health Act that we had dealt with, and that was just in October. So that's kind of a typical month, and that was just the High Prairie area itself. It goes out in the area, but that's not including Atikamekw, Gift Lake, Breward. So you can see that we're busy even just with what's going on in High Prairie.
So that's just the High Prairie detachment in High Prairie and High Prairie rural.
Yes.
Not going to some of the settlements reserves or anything else.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a busy detachment. There's quite a bit going on.
And that's 1 month.
1 month.
And you said that that's almost a normal month, but has there been a spike in the last, say, 2 or 3 months in some of the vandalism, vehicle theft? You're hearing a lot more now of farmers or property owners in the county.
Big Meadow, we did have the issue there. It was the suspect that we had thought it was. It was a youth who did the exact same thing a year previous. We had to set up, do undercover, I should say undercover, we had to do plainclothes surveillance, and that's how we got him. Not a lot of support from some of the community members as far as the people that were hiding him or weren't giving us information as to where he was. And then we got some pushback from some of the community as well. We were saying, well, what are you doing about it? Well, we interviewed this guy and we found out afterwards that if the keys weren't in the vehicle, he didn't steal it. So every vehicle he stole, the keys were left in the vehicle. Which is frustrating because for crime to happen, there has to be two things, intent and opportunity. Can't really change that intent unless there's a society change, but we can't take away the opportunity. Being from a farming family, I do realize we needed something, we jumped on it and we did what we needed to. It was always available, but times have changed and we need to change that. So I've met with Big Meadow. They're looking at restarting their rural crime watch, not the Citizen on Patrol, but the Crime Watch program. And in fact, one of the corporals is actually meeting with Big Meadow right now and having that meeting to try to get that sparked up again. There is some interest in the community out there, so hopefully that will get some feet and run. So we're pretty excited about that. And one of the previous detachment commanders, Duncan Will, is a part of that as well, so it's good to have his support. Another thing going on and on about what's been going on, that's really in a nutshell what we've been doing over the last month. We're still trying to plan ahead for what's coming next year, and I still want to meet with the people that are planning for the rodeo next year so we can establish some rules and get some more coverage there and make sure that they're doing some things with their planning as well that helps out the community, us, and themselves. We'll continue on with that. Any questions?
Councillor Tanaka?
Nope.
Yeah, have you heard anything about the dog handler position?
I haven't. Other than it's been knocked up levels above me, well above my pay grade. I don't know what the current status of it is. I'll make some inquiries again for next meeting. Hopefully we'll have an answer. It would be very nice to at least know, are we going to be getting someone here or not? Because bringing someone from high level, he's a very dedicated dog man. He's very good, but that's a 3.5-hour trip when he's really boogieing it. If we had that person here, I think we'd see a lot better results. Or even in Peace River or wherever this person ends up being. I know what my preference is, but
Yeah, we just meant to say High Prairie. We didn't say the other part at all. Let's just move back here.
Yeah.
High level can be looked after from Hay River.
Yeah. And that's frustrating for them too, because he's dedicated. He comes out here knowing that he's offering us a service, and when he can't, get us the results that we typically would get, he's frustrated with that as well. So
Oh,
as long as we
a
get
day and
some
a half,
clarity.
2 days out of his time too.
Yeah. And we pulled him in here, I think 3 times last month, and we also had the helicopter come in here to give us a hand when we had the shooting in town. We were just fortunate they were in the area. They redirected here. I was able to get them in the area. We got 3 phone calls wondering why there was a helicopter flying overhead. So people do notice those things.
There was a discussion at that meeting where they were looking at bringing a trainee from Grand Prairie over here. Do you remember that?
No, I might have left by then.
A dog handler that was just out of depot when he was at Grand Prairie?
I must have been gone too, because I don't remember that.
I don't remember that.
Any other questions? The 3 business break-ins, what was that attributed to?
I don't know offhand. I just ran the general report, but I can't get that information for you. So.
Is it, well, I was wondering if it was 3 separate businesses or was it targeted to just one business?
Yeah, one of them I believe was an oil field as well, because we were including the rural area. So I think it was an oil field location that someone had gone in and taken some equipment, and then the other 2 I'm not exactly sure what they were, but I will get that information for you.
Just hand it back to
Brian.
Brian.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
Was there anything you would like to see for next month? Is there anything you had any?
Just
Anything
feedback
specific?
on the dog handler.
Okay, will
Yeah.
do.
And actually, I kind of like the rundown of what you're doing. It sounds overwhelming, which is good because then I appreciate the amount of work you guys are actually doing out there because I don't hear a lot of crime statistics in that. And
Yes, it is interesting to hear it, and sometimes I get into the bad habit as well of just those to the grindstone, get to work and do that. So we need to communicate that a little bit better so people understand what it is we're actually combating. And just as an aside, when we're talking about these 22 assaults in the area, they're now saying that every domestic assault is usually taking a member between 10 and 20 hours to clear. So you take that per month, how many we're getting. And not all the assaults were domestics, but there's so much work involved with the domestics because there's the follow-up, victim services, safety planning, all the requirements through the Alberta government, and then also what's required for court. It takes up a lot of manpower to do those things. So when you're hearing that there's 22 assaults, and probably 75% of those are related to domestics, you can start figuring out how many hours we're spending on that avenue alone. So we're trying to do things preventative, getting people on healthy relationships and doing those presentations in conjunction with BSU. We can start getting people to have those healthy relationships and get out before the bad stuff happens. We can spend our time doing some more proactive things instead of the reactive, because it takes a lot of time. We definitely want to be more proactive, just like, you know, the integrated drug unit does.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Sorry about the phone call.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
And thank you for coming in, Chair.
Pleasure. Thank you, and nice to meet you.
Come again.
I will. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, Tracy Shikari, Chamber of Commerce, welcome. The Chamber of Commerce was sent a letter and we asked that you come to council to discuss what it is you wanted council to do.
So the Chamber of Commerce's new goal is to be more of a benefit to our community than what it has been. One of the first steps we need to do is have a physical space. The second step would be to get either part-time or full-time administration staff. However, we can't do both with our finances. So we are asking the town if they could donate the use of an office space for 1 year so that we can concentrating on getting staff, so we can do a number of projects which we think would be of a large benefit to the community. One of them is a business incubator. There's also a lot of businesses that need a temporary space as they're coming through town that it's hard to find while they conduct business here in High Prairie. And yeah, so we're asking for 1 year's free rent on an office space.
How much space is the?
We don't need a lot. To tell you the truth, it wouldn't really matter. We need room for a desk and a chair and a filing cabinet. Yeah, it's a physical place that people in the community can know where to find us. You know, instead of phone calls and emails and texts. So.
Okay. Questions then?
I understand the need for an office. I'm just curious, none of the businesses with all of their connections and space are offering up space?
We've had one offer. The location is not very desirable. I think it would probably be more of a deterrent than a benefit, which is pretty much the whole point of this. And again, it's finances even for them with the economy the way it is. Not too many people are gonna give up usable space for free to a quite small organization. So, and until we can prove our worth, I think, to the business community, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Mr. Morrison?
Just to let council know, I showed Tracy the smallest office space in the school division side as a possible rental space or whatever council's decision is on the space. So it's only 115 square feet.
Yeah, I
Is
think
what
so.
Yeah.
it's a very, very
Got
small office.
the
Yeah.
note on.
And that's
on
about
the
all you
agenda.
could put in that office would be a desk and a
Like I said,
filing
it is.
cabinet and a chair.
Yep.
So,
Page 6. Councillor Gunter?
One of the comments you made, though, was a bit of a worry, is that businesses traveling through town need a space.
Well, we're not talking about businesses that are taking businesses away from anybody here. We're, like for an example, there's a drug testing company that comes in for businesses that need to have their employees drug tested here in town. They're only here for 1 or 2 days, and
Don't they usually go on site though and complete the test there?
not all the time.
Not all the time?
That's just an example. I'm not talking about, like retail, it's more like services that, aren't provided here in High Prairie, which is why they come in to provide them. But you can't, you can't rent a building for 2 days while you're here. So, and it's not like we'd be giving it to them. It would be
You would sublet?
pretty much,
It would be another revenue
or
generator
exactly,
for,
yeah.
for the chamber.
Mhm.
Counselor Denat?
Just curious, out of all the businesses in town, are they, how many are actual members of the chamber?
We have, I believe it's, and this is an approximate number, but around 70 members. Most of them in or very close to High Prairie. We're trying to reach out to especially the different Native communities. Whether it's with, I went to that, the Native Friendship Center thing they had, which was really interesting, but like employment problems and how we can be more involved with them. Yeah, we'd like to have more, because we are High Prairie area, but we don't have a lot of area members. So and that's part of having an office space, is having somebody that we can dedicate the time to more member recruitment in outlying communities, and more in our community.
I just have another question. Can you explain or tell me exactly, as a business person, what would be the benefit of being a member of the Chamber of Commerce?
Well,
Like what
to
do
tell
you,
you, well,
what
to tell
do
you
you
the truth,
offer?
that's the big problem. Is I think for years, businesses haven't seen much benefit in being a chamber member. And as of January, when we brought in our new executive board, we really wanted to change the direction the chamber goes. One of the big things is what I call dropping out the feel-good programs, like the street festival. I think the chamber should have nothing to do with that. That is not what the chamber is for. And so part of our first part of the plan is getting physical space where we can, like I said, it's a lot of it, it's all volunteer. And so, which basically means your executive board is doing everything because nobody else volunteered. And when you all have businesses to run, it's hard to get anything done. So, but we need a place to put that person. And again, if there's no face and place for members of the community to go to, like I said, nobody reads their emails, or if they can't set it up in a text because they don't have a place to go to
Ask questions.
Yeah, and so that, like I said, that's just the very first step in what we want to do to change things. There's a lot we could do. We just have to start somewhere.
Counselor Panasic?
Just curious with, if you were to get a space, what are I noticed I read your letter that you think you'll get a grant. Is there any guarantees, or are you?
No, there's no guarantees, but that's why, that's part of our problem is we can rent a space and not have an employee, or we can have a free space and have an employee. We can't do both. We're hoping we can get grants that will pay for.
So you're saying you've got the money to hire an employee if the space was.
Whether it's full-time or part-time, that's something we have to look at our books in January, and decide how much we can afford on an employee. But we can't do both. It's too much to do both right now.
Counselor Quinn?
About 2 or 3 points. One, the office that was shown to you as being presented is about $3,600 a year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much employee you can get for $3,600 a year.
Well, yeah, but that 3,600 would go to
Could
work.
be used for something, right? And then you're looking at subletting and you would have other incomes coming in. Which I have a difficulty with, I'll be honest, is that if I'm giving it to you free and then you're renting it out, I don't understand what the taxpayer's getting from it, but we're gonna go there too. So, do you guys have a terms of reference, or do you have a mission? Do you have, like, so, I think Donna was getting at, and you said is, well, we don't wanna do the field goods. What then is the purpose? What is your, I see here it's economic and educational.
Well, again, is partly we want to get more involved with other organizations, especially when it comes to employment. Now, right now, everything's getting missed because there's too many different organizations trying to do this and trying to do that, whereas if they all connected, you know, maybe as the chamber we can be that connector point. So when it comes to the high schools and their work experience, when it comes to job training, you know, we're hoping that we can be that place where everybody goes. But there's also, you guys won't like this, but the businesses need to know that they can come to the chamber and we'll represent their concerns in front of the council. As you can see, how many people come to these meetings. So if
That's because everybody's happy.
Yeah, okay.
They just wanna watch it on video after.
You know,
They
so
thank you for being here.
you know, because the chamber really hasn't taken that kind of role in as long as I've been here, and for part of the chamber. So.
Okay. My last point or question was going to be regarding your revenues. I thank you for presenting them. I look at 2010 to 2015. There's a substantial variance for year to year.
That's mainly because of the trade show. It's only every 2 years. Also, just to note, we probably won't be doing that trade show again.
So I look at, you got 3 years in the 20s, one at 50, one at 68, and one at 120,000.
Remember what was that money called?
PREDA, Western Economic Development.
It has nothing to do with that. It was one of those feel-good programs.
Oh, the celebration at.
Where was that fake money? Shop local dollars.
Oh yeah.
Whatever that was called. So that went in, but then if you look, it went out later on.
Okay, we didn't get any of that. We just got
Yeah.
revenue. We don't know what your expenses are. I just see what the money came in.
I would say the trade show is probably,
Hyper
other than
Economics,
membership, is the only thing we made money on. The first time probably that was around 10,000-12,000. The year after, the next time we did it, that would be about 5,000. Like I said, and we probably won't be holding anything again. We could barely fill the arena the second time. The businesses aren't interested. So, so right now it's our only revenue is the membership. Unless we get some money. I shouldn't say that because I don't know, the chamber when you're part of the chamber, they have the medical insurance that you can sign up for, and I believe when you do that as a chamber, you get so much a month for
Small
everybody
percentage
that.
of whatever the premiums are.
But I have no idea. I'm not the bookkeeper. I have no idea what that if we actually get some of that per month. So, Councillor Long.
First off, I've been a critic at times of the chamber, and I appreciate the work that you're doing now in trying to create some outreach program and to create some sort of vehicle for yourselves to make yourselves heard, to give yourself a voice and a platform. I think that having space here in this facility creates an opportunity to be an umbrella organization under the town, or in partnership with the town. It does give you access to mayor and council a little easier, as does, it gives the opportunity for businesses to have that access. I think it's an opportunity for us to create that partnership and to give you an opportunity to improve the chamber. I see it, if it's a 1-year attempt here, then I see the potential of having it into the second, third, fourth year where you're in fact providing us with revenue and rent.
And that's, yeah, in the, letter we wrote, because a part of this attempt is to increase membership. Well, with increased membership, increased revenue, this is, yeah, we're only asking for 1 year. If it hasn't worked at that end of that 1 year where we can afford to pay rent, we won't be asking for more. Like, we won't be asking for another year of free rent. It's a 1 year, that's it.
It's an opportunity for us, in my opinion, to say to those 70 businesses, those 70 members, and those 70 family members that we want to see you succeed. And if this is some way that we can help, then I'm in favor of it. That's my opinion.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for taking the time to come. We appreciate your presentation, and I know that we will have discussions in our budget deliberations as to what we can do for the chamber.
Okay,
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. Protective Services Peace Officer report, right? Yes.
The council received the senior peace officers November 2015 report for information.
And if there's any questions, I gather we
Go talk
send
to
them
him.
to our CAO and he'll get answers for them. Councillor Tanaka?
I'm just wondering, did we sort out the marigold issue with the letter and the signs?
He went to see him.
Okay.
He told me because it was on their property, that's why they were sent the letter, so. But he should also went and talked to them.
Any other questions regarding the report? Therefore, all in favor of accepting? It's carried. Councillor Long. Used to this.
That council approved the minutes of the November 10th, 2015 regular meeting of council as presented.
And are there any errors or omissions in the minutes? Councillor Tanaka.
Just a spelling error, page 16 of our agenda, removed by, I'm assuming it's supposed to say removed by November, not remove my November.
Is it
Of course,
under?
November is spelled wrong.
It's the bottom of the page.
Yeah.
Fourth sentence from in the last paragraph, or fourth line, not sentence.
Oh, I see. The date, November 19th, and by, okay. So the last paragraph, fourth line down.
Yes.
Right, November
Missing
19th.
Okay. Any other errors or omissions?
Well, I will catch them if there are.
That's good, especially if Trevor's not here anymore.
Yeah.
All in favor? That's carried. And the next item is, we're gonna work on the grants, are we? Number 5. Councillor Long.
That council provide a grant up to, I have this in writing as well for you. Nancy. That council provide a grant up to $8,080 from the legislative services count, numbers, I think 21177 and 7 zeros. Grants, organizations, individuals, in 2016 to the Golden Age Club. Police and direct administration to advertise an RFP request for proposal to have the 4 items listed in the addendum of the lease completed. I think that they're looking for, that they have some work to do and get the paperwork to us. And so if we have it this way and set up this way, then that gives them the opportunity to get the proper paperwork done and then have it in so that administration can take care of the rest.
Councillor Long, are you asking then in that the RFP be done by the Golden Age, or are you asking that the town does the RFP?
Well, I think that we probably could do, but
It should be us, we own the
the
building.
administration would be able to do that.
We did the last one.
We own the building, that's why I'm thinking
Yes.
that it should be us
We
that
will
does
do
that.
that, we will do the RFP.
Okay, so is your motion worded that the RFP is done by administration?
To direct administration to advertise the RFP request for the proposal to have the 4 items listed in the addendum of the lease completed.
Okay, and the 4 items are, not part of your motion, but can
No.
you tell me what they are? Are they the ones that he lists?
There's items 1, 5, 7,
Seven and eight.
and 8, I
On
believe.
page 28.
Okay, alright, so those were the ones that were identified?
Yeah.
I see it on here.
On page 1, 5, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
1, 5, 7, 8, okay. Mr. Martinson?
Just to let council know that I put this on the agenda for the intermunicipal agreement. And what I did is Alice Mary Olansky come in to see me. And of the 47 members that they have at the Golden Age Club now, 17 are from the county. She said that number was higher, but 3 or 4 passed away in the last year or so. That's 36% of their membership is from the county, and all that the county puts into it is some money for the grant for the busing. And that's the cover for going out to pick up their seniors in the county to bring them into the town of Hyper to shop and mail or whatever, doctor's appointments. So that's just for council's information.
Have they ever gone to the county for any funding?
I don't believe they
Golden
have.
Age Club?
I suggested that to Alice Mary when she was in, but I also told her that it was gonna be a topic on for the intermunicipal on next Monday's meeting with them, so. I kinda, their CAO was in to visit me today, and I told Bill that it was gonna be on the agenda, and giving him a little bit of background information on it too, so he's aware of it also.
Okay. Councillor Janata?
I just have a question. If we own the building, why are they applying for a grant to repair a building that we own?
I think that was because it was always done that way, but
It was.
Okay.
And the grant, according to the item in our budget, it's under a grant for the money that we would lend them, that's why it says a grant to them, so,
Same as the golf course.
yes.
We own it, but they apply, they're a committee that runs it.
Okay.
These were some of the deficiencies in the building that were addressed last year, but the funding wasn't there, and what my recommendation to them was to have the roof done. And I told council that.
What did we put in last year, something like 24,000
Yeah,
or something?
Yeah. It was right around that for the roofing. And the contractor said you have to start from the outside. There's no use fixing stuff in the inside if the roof is still leaking, and it's gonna wreck what you're gonna fix in the inside. So you start from the outside and work in. I believe in some of this stuff that Public Works or the town could help out, like some of the landscaping issues. Once when they do, like we always end up with excess topsoil, whatever, from our digs, and it's something that through the summer that we can help out as the summer students can go over and rake, and we have the machines and have to help them out. So I don't think it's gonna be a total cost for the county, but if they could put in $10,000 towards the repairs, then I think that everybody would be happy.
well, the items 1, 5, 7, and 8 add up to about 7,000.
That should be 8,000 and
8 thousand? Okay, so out of the 21,000, 8
how
from
much was the
21.
landscaping on that? That was the bottom number, that was.
$800,
that- yeah,
So 8,000 from 21.
So 11.
It's 13,000. Between 13 and 14,000, you're gonna have left of bathrooms and lino and carpet, and it's gonna be interior items. And I've left off the insulate the space above the current floor, because that's more like building. So when we go to intergovernmental, are we asking for half of 14,000, or what's our ask for when we get there?
We'll ask them to provide all of the remaining items except item number 9,
Okay, so item number 9, the town will do.
the town.
So we're gonna ask for a split, or are we asking for them to pick up that because we're doing the outside?
I basically told Bill that we'd be asking them for that money because we put in the additional 24,000 or whatever it was last year, and never asked them for
Okay,
any funding, so I think if we put in $30,000, they can put a third in for their members, cause they do have 36% of the members there.
okay, as long as we know what Brian and I are gonna be, cause I don't think
Yeah.
Debbie's gonna be there.
No.
Be there.
No,
Will this be FCSS funding?
I think it could be because wasn't it last year?
We do the bus under the FCSS.
It was under a grant, so
Yeah, so I'm hoping that's, I
And
think
we
it's
do
the same
have-
one.
And we have extra this year in FCSS.
we got,
So we could even,
So although you have, you've indicated grants, you didn't really indicate FCSS, that's a different,
that was the recommendation from Herman, to take it from that account.
is that 251772 with a whole bunch of zeros?
Yeah.
Is that the number?
21177.
Oh, no, that's a different one.
yeah.
Because when you go to page 35 for the party program, FCSS is 251772 000000.
Well, I could go with that and then we could just ask
Herman to switch it out to
to
that.
switch it.
The motion would be incorrect though. So we'd have to make a motion to change it.
At that point.
We could do it at that point, or we could.
We can
Friendly
make it a
amendment.
more generic
Yeah,
motion.
friendly amendment now would be
Or
the
we-
best thing in my opinion, if you would.
But we don't know that there's money in FCSS.
There's money left over this year though, and I don't know what our plans are for next year.
Okay.
And they increased the funding for FCSS, the province, so it means we have to spend more.
So your motion could read without, just take out legislative services account number 2117700.
Yeah, and then Herman can find out which one to take it from. And we'll
You
just
all
let
right with that?
administration know we prefer FCSS.
I'm alright with that. And then, again, if we need to change it, if we need to clean it up some other way, then we can change it, right? Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to change the wording to FCSS grant number?
No, he's just gonna remove the grant
We'll
number,
just leave it.
Out of
Just
the
leaving
motion.
it.
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
we'll let Herman see if there's enough funding there, he'll take it from there,
Okay.
or mix the two,
Okay, so
whatever.
the motion stops before it gets to
The-
what
The
account?
legislative services
Okay.
account number, yeah.
Any other discussion on this?
Yeah, I had a question, this was one of the buildings that we had inspected with the,
No.
what wasn't one of them? Okay. Well, then my question becomes null and void. I
I'm
was
actually
wondering what the
surprised.
report.
Why wouldn't it have been one of the 12?
I
just
don't know, it was
didn't-
just not, wasn't identified as.
Missed.
Oh, well, it's probably in good shape because we've been spending money. Councilor Donato?
I just, in the agenda, Herman attached, or somebody attached a copy of the financial support donation request. Now, does this fall into, like, we have this policy, but are we following the policy or are we not following the policy? Or does this
But
fall
it's a
under
building
that?
we own. That's one of the things we have to consider, is that that's our building.
Okay,
So we have to update our own building. Now we're looking after our own integrity,
okay.
our own asset. This isn't.
Okay, alright, okay, never mind, I'll wait. So, and is he asking this, and then there's a blank form for the application? Is he wanting them to fill this out according to this policy? Is that what,
That was his indication, yeah.
so we don't want them to fill it out?
I don't believe we need to at this time,
Oh, okay,
because it is our building.
okay, okay.
And in your opinion, Brian, do all of these repairs need to be made, or is this nice to have, or is it need to have?
No, I actually walked through it with Ray Lavoy, and they do need done. They should have been done last year, but the funding wasn't there.
Okay then, think we're done discussing that one, we're in agreement, we're gonna keep our building?
Just to let council know that I did a RFB on the building last year and got no response from any contractors whatsoever.
Might this year.
So hopefully the year with the economy this year that we get lots to do these repairs, so.
Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried. Application for grant the party program. Councilor Tanaka.
Make a motion the council approve the party prevent alcohol and risk-related trauma in youth program application completed for financial support donation request and submitted for the amount of $1,500 and fund the grant from the FCSS account number 251-77260 grants local organization.
Questions? This one is our pretty standard FCSS use of money, so, okay, all in favor? It's carried. Next item, the Ukrainian Culture Society. Councilor Long.
Recommended the council approve the Ukrainian Cultural Society request for $2,000 for an amount to be determined under the legislative services account number 211-7760 grants, organizations, individuals in 2016.
Discussion. Councilor Tanaka.
So I'm referring now back to the policy that Herman had put, that was included in our agenda, financial support. Now, if you go on page 30 of the agenda, so we have a policy. So it says, special events, if the special event request is being approved, benefits the entire community, or is open to all citizens, it's 33% of what they're asking. And then, if the services for which funding is being approved benefits a portion of the community defined by geographic and demographic boundaries, the support must not exceed funding of 17%. So, I'm confused where this policy fits into these applications.
Can I explain that a bit more?
Well, according to the financial support donation request policy that's in our agenda, on page 30, general criteria, says funding formula, special events, if the event for the financial support donation request is being approved, benefits the entire community, is open to all citizens, the support donation must not exceed 33%, 1/3 of the special event's net cost. So,
Okay.
and then
So let's
financial
go with number
support.
one, let's say we're going to use that as criteria for this grant.
Yes, like I'm asking, are we using this policy? I mean, they want 2,000, that's not the cost of the whole thing, but do we equate that with 33%, 17% based on this policy? Or I'm just trying to figure out how this policy
Can be applied.
can be applied to the request.
Okay. And the policy is it's 5 years old. And I'm not sure, did we ever use it before?
Doesn't matter, ignorance isn't an excuse.
Oh,
And it
just
doesn't matter
wondering.
how old it is, cause the law is a law, doesn't matter if it's 100 years old, right?
Yeah,
But,
it's a
my
policy.
argument would
It's
be-
not a bylaw, it's a policy.
Yes, and policies are strong guidelines.
Okay,
My arguments would be that it is 1/3 or less, because the day's event is about $4,600 and they're asking for $1,500. The other argument would be it benefits the entire community. If it's for the children, chances are they belong to a family, families are the community. And I was I was against this last year. I voted against it. I still,
Did we pass it?
yes, we did.
Good.
But
We did.
if we, yes, we did. We
Yes.
gave them the $1,500 last year out of FCSS. Linda was quite happy. I do believe we did, honestly I do, but I was against it.
Okay.
We did.
I think it says we did from last year. If you
Yeah.
In the minutes, it says we did give them 1,500 last year. Cause she argued that it was FCSS and we get the money anyway and it has to go back to something to that effect. So if we've gotta spend that money anyway, it's not a cost to the taxpayer.
Okay, so the discussion though here pinpoints on whether it's 33% or whether it's 17%. And if it's 33%, is the 2,000 33%?
Where do you get the 17, sorry?
Clause two.
B.
B?
Clause 2B.
Must not exceed,
Well, I'm not sure what that is.
that's not percent though, that's 17 and 1/16 of this.
Well, I'm
Six.
assuming it's supposed to say 17%, cause if you go to the next paragraph under that, financial donations, it's the same thing, 33%, 1/3 of net cost,
Okay, then it
or
goes-
17%.
$17 percentage,
If,
Yeah,
okay, 1/6 of the cost, I see.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if you go to page 50, number 9, it gives you their expenses, so.
For the year or for
No,
just
no,
that event?
for that,
page 50?
I think that's for the whole organization, it's 19,000, not an event.
Yeah, the event is $4,509. So it's the 1/3 qualifies, and the community qualifies, but it is a special event.
Where did you see the 4,500? I'm missing.
Page 38 at the bottom.
Page 38.
Received.
That's
That's the
party
that's the
program.
party
We're
program.
on, we're on.
Isn't that what you're on?
No,
No,
we're
we're
on
on
the
that.
Ukrainian.
Ukrainian dance.
Oh, you already did the party that quick?
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that.
you
Oh,
were out. with-
Sorry. I thought we were talking, we did nothing for the Ukrainian, the system
Well,
last year.
That's
Oh.
what I
No, I
was saying.
thought you were
too.
talking party, I was like,
Okay.
No, we went through that, we
Okay.
said FCSS, we did the exact
You guys were
thing
really
we
quick.
just said.
Sorry, I
You
missed
did
that.
it
I
all,
stepped
Mary.
my apologies, I thought it was the
Okay.
party program. If it is the Ukrainian,
Yes.
It's good drugs.
yeah, actually I need some right now, the pain's climbing. So I would be against this because it is a very limited number of people that can attend the event. It is a community event, but every dancer can invite between 6 and 10 people, depends how many dancers they have, and that's it. So it's usually immediate family and possibly one friend or 2 friends.
They do sell tickets for
So
that
this-
though.
They sell the tickets to it, but it's
That's
every
the-
dancer gets
it's not
6
the-
tickets or
the
8
dance,
tickets
it's
or
not the
10
public.
tickets. Depends on how many
Oh,
they need.
okay.
It's not the
And
same.
that's,
I just assumed you bought them uptown, cause my
no,
mom.
no, so like with my daughter dancing
Okay.
last
That's what
year,
it was.
Okay.
we get a priority. Dancers and families get priorities.
But they do buy the tickets.
Yes, they pay for the
Yeah, okay.
tickets, the
Okay.
family members, but it's not community then.
So that was.
Community to me should be public, which means you open it up, I should be able to buy a ticket, but my daughter's now dancing this year, so I won't be able to.
Because all the rest are pre-sold.
They're usually pre-sold.
Yeah, okay.
That's my only, and actually, one of the things that I really looked at, is I would like to get involved with these dance groups though, because they host a lot of different events. We took our daughter to, not Vegreville, past Vegreville, another small town, maybe, yeah, it was past Vegreville, another small town, and we did a dance event, we were there like 3 days. And you go there in this amphitheater, and every hotel in town is booked. All the fast food restaurants get lots of business because it's packed.
Mhm.
Vermilion, I think we're in Vermilion.
Yeah, you were talking about
Yeah,
that last year.
and then the Westlock holds a big event for 3 days. And I imagine the amount of money that flows into the community from these dance contests or whatever, I'm not sure what to call them. That's where I'd like to get involved and promote, not the dinner, not the Zabava.
So Zabava is the dinner, it's not the festival?
It is
It's,
festival.
it's their
Oh, I see.
celebration, and they have their,
Okay.
Ukrainian
the
food.
members dance, and they usually have,
They bring in a troupe from Edmonton.
usually Vinok or somebody, some other Ukrainian troupe, and they have the big Ukrainian supper, and it's
It's a wonderful event, really is.
It is. It's
Love going every
it
time
is.
I get a chance. It's just unless you normally have a child dancing in it, it's very difficult to get a ticket.
Councillor Donaka.
I know, and in the future, we probably may or may not get other requests, but I'm going back to last year, and there was, I think if we're supporting one over another, like last year, we didn't support the cadets. They needed money, and so I'm just wondering if we're going by approving this, then the next organization who comes wanting money for something, I don't want this to be a precedent-setting thing.
Gymnastics, repertoire dance, Highbury soccer.
It wouldn't be, to answer that concern, none of what we do here for grants and funding is precedent setting. We have the authority and in fact are encouraged to look at how we are gonna disperse the funds in the most fair and equitable way into the most meaningful groups at the time. It doesn't mean because we give it to them this year that we have to give it to them next year at all.
No, I'm just saying, let's say, some other dance club comes forward and says, we're having an
Repertoire.
event, or repertoire dance or whatever,
Yeah.
we're having our annual 3-day, repertoire thing.
I
we
agree
want-
with what you're saying, except that these people met the deadline. And if there's nobody else that applied, why do we have to say, well, we should hang on because we may get another application, when at this point, we don't have quarterly submissions.
Right.
So,
So basically, in that regard, what you're saying then, they've applied and they've met the deadline. Anybody else that applies later has missed the deadline, so it's a definite no based on our policy. Okay.
100%.
well, unless we make a motion to go to quarterly, which I think we should go to, because we are not fulfilling,
You're not gonna
We're
get the
not-
applications annually.
yeah, we're not helping the groups that are around our community by sticking hard and fast to this year, once a year and that's it. So, and it isn't, I'm looking at, what did we spend last year, 45,000, if that?
It was 43 or something.
We cut it down lots last
Lots.
year.
So.
But we said no to a lot of these programs,
Mhm.
right? We said no, and that's, I think, a lot of ways we cut down.
So, given the fact that 2 years ago we said, when we were elected, we said we wanted to support the community, we wanted to support families, we wanted to support children, Here's a chance to support that, and I think that they met they have met the grant application,
They
that's
did.
why they're in here.
Yep.
So, I'm in support of this.
I would be more in support, like, you look at the amount that they're asking for is, last year they had a deficit of just over $1,000 on their celebration, and now they're asking for 2. I'd be more in support if we offered them 1 and said, here's some, because we are gonna get these other kinds of events coming in, and giving some to this one and some to the other ones, I would be more in support of doing something like that.
But
Councilor.
But we don't have other groups applying, and as the mayor's already stated, we don't have, boy, I'm agreeing a lot with you, Dave. And we don't have a mechanism in place to offer quarterly grants yet. So once we have that, then we could say, maybe we should give less because we'll have more people coming in May or in the next quarter. But we don't have that in place. So right now, we have these funds that are available to 30 kids, 75 members, and 30 young dancers who are celebrating and being a part of our diverse culture of this town. It meets the criteria, and they met the deadline, and it's something that we should be able to do.
Okay, we're wrapping up. Councillor Amster?
My only discussion, the number of applications we received may be down because last year we were quite vocal in how we were only going to make it, we were cutting out all kinds of things. And so a lot of the word went out that don't ask for money because you're not gonna get it. So now all of a sudden you turn around and the people that didn't apply are gonna be quite upset with us. And then next year when they apply and all of a sudden we have 10 times the amount of applicants and they start going, well, repertoire has 260 kids.
Mhm.
Are you gonna start, how are you gonna pick and choose?
We advertised, we said, put your grant application in.
Based on the merits of this application, with our policy as it sits, right now today, this totally meets that criterion. And in my opinion is deserving of those funds.
Okay, anybody else?
The only other comment I would have to what you were saying, Michael, is I know our policy says that there is a deadline, but we do, and we know we get other requests coming in after the fact. I know other ones are gonna be coming in, regardless of what our policy says. And I think there's gonna be other ones, so I'd hate to give more than's really needed. Of course, they're gonna ask for, more if they can get more, but I would be more comfortable with 1,000, that's my point.
Okay, so the motion is for 2,000. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated? Is there another motion? Councillor Hampton?
We'll make the motion that we give 1,000 to the Ukrainian Cultural Society of High Prairie towards the Zabava celebration. And I don't see the motion in front of me, sorry.
You got the account
Well,
number? Same
So I'm just
account
gonna
number.
change it to 1,000, everything else is the same.
Okay. Discussion, beat it to death. All in favor? Carried. Museum and Historical Societies, next item. Councillor Tanaka?
It is recommended the council provide funding up to the $60,000 from the Cultural and Services account number 274-765-005,000. Grants Museum in 2016 in the Museum and Historical Society.
This one here has met the criteria for our funding. Councillor Hampton?
My only question would be, I noticed that the town of High Prairie puts forward 60,000 and the county Big Lakes puts forward 15,000?
Councillor?
The museum is not part of the 50-50 split or anything,
Yeah.
but Darlene does apply to the MD for a grant and they get $15,000 quarterly.
My request for her would be to actually go up and request more, or to go to the intermunicipal, because it is the High Prairie District Museum, that's its official name, and a lot of people we know access it from out of town. I mean, that cougar wasn't caught in High Prairie, right? It's in there.
Most of the exhibits are from out of town.
Yes.
Farmers. Mr. Martinson?
Just to let council know that they weren't in favor of, the county wasn't in favor of donating a bunch of money to this museum because they would have to do the same thing to the one in Canuso,
That's right.
the one in Swan Hills. So that's why they were reluctant to commit funds to us, because they would set a precedent of why they're doing it just in High Prairie and not in the other hamlets that they have around. So just to let council know.
There's one in Reward too.
And we actually talked about that very issue last time,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, any other discussion on this?
One point, I did notice that the town of High Prairie Rec appears to be donating $14,000 to the museum again, and it's counted for revenue. So, in case anybody's on the rec board and wants to note that.
That's very good. I'm glad they are doing that. Where is that?
It's in their budget on page 56. And last year, what it is the rec doesn't operate the tourist booth anymore, and for the last 2 years has transferred it over. But there's some discussion about that, maybe that it should be added into the intermunicipal agreement instead. But the museum's not part of the intermunicipal agreement,
No.
so it can't be.
Okay. Mr. Martinson?
Do you want me to put this topic on the intermunicipal?
No.
No?
Just leave it alone? Alright.
No, other than the fact that they're subcontracting.
I'd let them know though, that's all. But we are donating 60, they're donating 15. It's not asking for more, but when they're always pointing out that, you know, well, here's one.
Yeah.
Here's a prime example. And we're not asking for more. So it's not all, you know, us, give us.
Good point. Do you have something to say?
Not to add to that, I was going to make a motion for the next.
Okay, all in favor of the museum's budget? Carried. Councillor Long.
That council approves the grant, the amount of $1,500 to the High Prairie and District Community Band, subject to the organization filling out the proper grant application format as per policy 46/2010.
Oh, Councillor
What
DeVaca?
was your motion again?
That council approves the grant in the amount of $1,500 to the High Prairie and District Community Band, subject to the organization filling out the proper grant application format as per policy 46/2010.
Go ahead.
I don't know if anybody was able to hear the band during Remembrance Day. Amazing work that they've done, and they're making do with a lot of used, old, tattered equipment, and so this is their chance to start building upon that equipment, making it more functional. So.
Councillor Hampton?
A lot of the band members also bring their own personal instruments and do their own wear and tear and replace everything for free. They'll also be playing at the Light Up this year, which is a big community event, and everybody attends that. And the Remembrance Day is also open to the entire community. And they host an actual open night where they play for about an hour or so for people. And chairs are set up at the Prairie River. It's really nice, and I'd even offer more, and I'd try and take it from the FCSS because it is family and children. It's community sport and spirit.
I would agree with everything you're saying. I think this application form will be a problem for them to fill out because they're not a legal society.
They are now.
Oh, they are now,
They
okay.
do have the nonprofit status. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
They've been working hard this last year.
okay.
Yeah.
Well then, let's see what comes in for an application. So up to 1,500, but of course you realize that,
That's only drums. That's nothing else.
no, but they don't have, the 33% or whatever because they don't have any expenses.
Well, they didn't have a budget last year, right? This is a new organization, so it's not going to apply to them. Like, trying to judge from what they did last year, it won't apply, cause they're new.
Okay,
Also, they receive probably the gymnasium in lieu for practice every week. So there are other expenses that either being donated or covered by them themselves.
you know,
I'm not
in
sure.
kind or whatever.
There are
How many members are there?
almost 30,
Oh,
There had to be at least 24 there.
and there was lots that were missing that day.
Yeah.
And there are some unique members in there.
okay. Well, it's subject to them filling out the application, so it will come back again. All right. All in favor?
Oh, yeah.
Carried. Library.
So we got that all figured
Now the
out now,
breaks.
right? We got it all figured out.
Oh, okay,
It's
you wanna
all
make a
worked.
motion?
Yeah, let me find the motion, I'll just read it.
Do you wanna break?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Council provide funding up to the $180,528.24 from the Cultural Services account number 274765006000 grants library in 2016 to the High Prairie Municipal Library.
Okay, discussion. You wanna bring us up to date?
After the last meeting, Herman and myself met with Tracy and Simone, and they showed us, Simone did the budget actually, and had left out a part of the grant stuff. That's where Herman come up with the wrong numbers, so when they were all done, I think the difference was like $24 or something. It's in the report.
Yeah, it's
And we
explains
paid
all.
180,000
Yeah,
last
so-
year, and they're asking for 180 this year,
Yeah.
so.
We increased it $24 or something.
Ours will go up half of the $24.47 is what the increase is, so.
Okay,
I'd just like to say to Donna, thank the library board for following through and making it work when you see it, cause that's good.
fantastic, fantastic. Okay, all in favor? Man, that was, that's fantastic. Next item is the reserve fund and accumulated surplus accounts. Would you like to speak to this, Mr. Martins? We'll need a motion first.
I need a motion, yeah. What do we got here? Just to get it started, I'll make the motion that,
Receive
hold on.
information and then we can
yeah,
decline.
that the council receives this for information and we'll look at it, because I think how to proceed with regards to each of these, and we can maybe deal with that later, but at least to get the discussion
You
going.
want me to go pull Herman in? He said he would come in
Oh,
Yeah,
and you can ask
I
him the
think so.
question. Okay,
Right.
okay.
so the motion is for information at this point.
Yeah, so we can
Okay.
just defeat that and then do whatever we want, or just accept that later.
Okay, so he has got a policy here.
And I didn't get a chance, I have sticky tab, I wanted to give him a call, and I didn't get a chance to get in touch with him on it.
Oh, he's gonna be right here.
That's perfect.
I think what we'll have to do is do a new policy. That would be should be the recommendation from council, so we can tidy up the other accounts.
So, in reading this, I was confused because I'm not sure what he was asking us for.
I think what we have to do is tidy up the policy. So it's more, because the way Herb had it, we had all the accounts, the reserve accounts for 4 different years.
Sorry.
You gonna be able to sit there and listen to us? Okay.
No problem.
Alright, we're looking at your reserve
We're on page
policy.
67 of the agenda.
Okay, thanks.
The reserve fund and accumulated surplus accounts.
Yes. Basically starting off with this, or do you want me to?
Yeah, start and
Let's
talk,
do it. Okay.
talk about it.
I'm not sure if you've been doing much discussion with the
Nope.
matter at all?
We just passed
We
a
just
motion
started.
for information,
All right.
cause
No,
we're
we
not
didn't
sure what.
pass
it.
No,
We made the motion.
made the motion
We
for
can discuss.
information.
Only to get the discussion going.
Okay. So basically regarding reserves, there are several policies, bylaws, etc. that council has passed in history, historically, which are still current. I'm gonna go through them. The fire department bylaw is the first one. Bylaws trump everything other than provincial legislation. So this bylaw was passed in 2014, and in there basically, council had directed that all of the revenue from the vehicle responses for the fire department would be put into a reserve for the fire department equipment. 100%. Talking with Chief Melnick, he was under the impression that it was 50%, but I can understand the confusion because the county splits the cost of operating the fire department. So basically, before, half the revenue was coming to us to offset our half of the costs, and half was going to them. So basically, taking the full amount, our half of the revenue was coming into there, as well as the counties, or are supposed to have. There has been no transactions done to transfer that money over to the reserves. So the reserves that are there have been set up prior to this time.
So we haven't been following our.
We haven't been following your own
bylaw.
bylaw. And this is where one of those things get lost in the bylaw. Somebody doesn't write it down as something that has to be done at year end to make sure that that fund money gets transferred over. And then also in the budgeting process, that we don't collect the revenue and consider it as revenue. Because basically what we have to do is take the revenue in and put it back out into the reserve.
Counselor Apter?
So you're taking money out of capital budget 2013 and plan 2014 reallocating it to each one of the individual.
No, he's looking on page 67 here.
67,
This
I'm
was
just
the
going through.
bylaw.
So an explanation
Yeah.
of what's been
Oh.
happening with.
But, so in net effect, I'm sorry.
So, before you start on that, the billings, when they go out to a fire, and they build Alberta Transportation,
Or the insurance companies.
or the
yes.
insurance companies, and we were doing that, and we were doing.
We still are doing, yes.
We were really getting some good dollars.
Mhm.
It was coming into the fire department
As a revenue.
as revenue, general. just-
Operating revenue for responses to those accidents.
Okay, but it should have been going into the reserve?
No.
Is that
What
what
should
you're
happen
saying?
is the money comes into the revenue,
Yes,
and then that would trigger a transfer from our operating budget to the capital reserve
of the same amount.
of that same amount.
Okay, all right, I understand that, but that never
That
happened.
that hasn't
money
happened.
came in, and it was used to offset the,
Operating costs.
expenses that,
Yeah.
to operate the fire hall.
But there was money being put into.
At one time it had been done,
I don't think so.
No, because their Ken was here.
Yeah.
And was talking about their capital reserve, which we can't touch, right, because we need the MD's permission to buy the equipment.
Right,
There's 200 or 300, or I forget what it
yeah,
was.
and that's listed in there, how much is in there right now. And that's right, cause the MD's half of the revenue, cause they get half that revenue is offsetting their expenses, so they've also agreed to take half of that revenue and put it into the reserve, so when it comes time to buy a capital item, whether it be a fire truck or a rescue vehicle or
Or
whatever,
Ken's truck.
then we have the money.
That should've
so
been
are you
there.
saying that money did go into capital reserve,
Not since the bylaw was passed,
and the bylaw got passed when?
2014, I believe.
2014 was the last time
Bylaw
the money
9,
went in there.
2014.
September or.
Okay,
Over here.
so we all know
Yeah,
where we're at.
last year we didn't get the revenue over there.
It just went into operating and then
Yeah.
it sucked up.
So
And the same thing is in the budget for 2015,
Sounds like.
and here's what the problem is I don't think there's any application made to take money and put it from the fire budget into the capital reserve.
So do we have to catch up 14 and 15?
Legally, I guess if we pass the bylaw, that's the bylaw that we have to abide by, so yes.
Different change.
So
Okay.
we'll have to take a look and see what the net effect of it is. Now, having said that, we're responsible for our half. The county, again, for 2014, we're responsible for their half, because they would have had their operating costs offset by that revenue in that year.
So it's only us that has to put it in? They have to also,
Yeah.
On there, but it's separate accounts.
separate accounts.
So that should be in our joint agreement we have with them there to say that.
Or
that's
actually
what
might
we do
even.
with fire department.
But the purchase of the chief's truck should have been done from their capital reserve
I believe
instead
it
of
was.
ours.
Mhm.
Because I think it came out of our capital purchases.
I'd have to dig out, once we get into all of this now, I'm just reporting what I found. So yeah, we'd have to investigate that fully and see if there was any other capital items.
So it
I
might
think
save
there
us
was.
30 grand. or whatever.
This guy's gonna be here for 5 years, do you know that? This is what you call job security.
It's gonna take me that long just to find all the little nuances, because when we get into some of the other, policy 12-2000, reserve policy attached.
Okay,
So how much money usually comes in on those? Do you know?
Which one's the fire department?
Yeah, for all of these revenues that they bring in a year, what is that? Because obviously if it's gonna be coming in and not being applied to operating, it's gonna increase what we need to charge to operate the fire department. And I'm
In our
just
budget,
trying
that's correct.
yeah, I'm
But
trying
at the
to
same
figure out
time,
what it's
we
worth.
should be putting money into reserve for, because their equipment, like that ladder truck over there, I think it was $1 million ladder truck, if I remember correctly. I think it was purchased after I left the last times. So luckily, I think fire trucks are usually good for about a 20-year period, with all the, inspections and such. At 20 years, it's almost time to, you have to.
Do you have any idea what was there? I can't remember what we bring in revenue from.
Not offhand.
it's approximately $500 for each accident that they go out to.
So what's the
It's in the,
It's in
I
the
wanna say
budget.
$40,000 to $60,000 range.
And it has been going down because
They're not
the
getting
county is
invited.
not asking.
Or
That's
they're invited to, but then they stop,
Yes.
and they're not allowed to assist unless required.
So that there was a discussion there that the
Oh, yeah.
revenue isn't gonna be as much.
That's
So,
the problem.
But we have got quite a bit this year, so, it's not that we haven't had anything. It's in the, I wanna say $30,000 plus range this year, we enjoyed there.
Any other questions on
The
this
fire department?
fire policy? So that one requires further work from the treasurer to bring us up on that.
Okay, the reserve policies. And again, this dates back to 2000. It's still on the books because it was never rescinded.
It was never rescinded, and this is what we.
15 years ago, and then we passed another policy in 2013, I believe, restricted accumulated surplus policy, which also deals with some capital surplus, capital reserves. So it should have happened at that time, I wanna say, or either somebody should have read this and brought it back to council when they passed this and said, okay, here's the policy that's on the books. We wanna get rid of this and we wanna implement this.
And and nothing was ever rescinded, this policy?
No,
with all the
as you can
reserves?
see on page 69 at the very top, there's nothing there rescinding it.
So somebody.
There should have been a motion to rescind at the same time when they adopted
And
the
then-
new one.
And
It's just
then
a
the new one.
housekeeping matter. So I don't wanna say that we should get rid of it, cause when I get into the next policy, it's a little bit awkward, or, it's not as nicely worded. I'd like to see reserves where we're actually putting reserves into for specific purposes. Rather than just the capital 2015, the capital 2016. If we need to have capital equipment replacement, whether it's public works or capital equipment in this office for, let's say, photocopiers, servers, etc., putting money aside every year so that when it comes time to purchase, and the decision is to purchase one of those items, that the money is there, not just it becomes a hit of $25,000, $30,000 for our operating budget. If we put $4,000 or $5,000 each year towards it in the operating budget, then when it comes time to buy it, it's not a spike.
Okay, so are you redrafting a policy similar to number 12-2000, where you actually specify the different reserves?
I need to find out from council if that's what they want me to do. This basically 2012 should have been rescinded.
Right,
2013,
but
or the 2000.
that format, I'm
Yeah.
looking at that format and I'm thinking, is that what
I
the
think-
council wants? That type of a format where you actually say, this is where we're allocating.
And name the reserves, what the reserves will be, rather than the 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
Because when we get to accumulated surplus, and with the accounting transactions that have happened there right now, basically the accumulated surplus, and I think I referred to this in the discussion, has basically been overdrawn. We no longer have accumulated surplus accounts per se to draw from.
I think it would be, this is my thoughts, I don't mind seeing separate accounts for
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
But I think when I look into this, the reserve policy of 2002, they got 17 different reserve accounts, which is insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy, and I think you could lump these you lump them together into
A capital
like.
reserve or a equipment reserve.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 of them, and
Mhm.
now you got something where you're gonna have something in each of these accounts. At 17 reserves, you're gonna have $3.42 in one account and
Mhm.
$149 in the other one. You're not gonna have anything. So lump them together into what you would.
Something that's manageable.
Exactly, like 4 or 5
Yeah.
bigger clumps, like a capital or infrastructure.
And then if we're dealing with something like, let's say, the infrastructure plan, as we've looked at it for the, what I have to call the vertical or horizontal infrastructure, so the pipes, the roads, anything that goes this way is your horizontal infrastructure, and then those are the plans that we've got done for us. So we have a reserve to fund that type of a situation.
Yeah, or it could be utilities
Yeah,
or
and I've
whatever
talked
you
with
wanna
Vern about
call
the
it.
idea of an equipment reserve and getting that back and running so that we can then, come up with it's basically a 10, 15, 20-year plan. Some of our equipment stays on that long on it, but some trucks need to age out every 10 years, some are every 8 years, depending on the vehicle type of use it's getting. But they had that here one time. It was being maintained very meticulously, and the funding was in there, so I think it was about $150,000 a year that was going into equipment reserves. So they could go out and have money available to, when it came time to, let's say, buy a new grader, you know, it's more than $150,000, so you start building towards that year by underspending in other years. So the reserve builds up for when you need the big, capital outlay. The other reserve, and there is a need for an operating reserve, not that I wanna get away from the, I don't wanna call it the, accumulated surplus, or, you know, cause basically that's your equity account, but I believe they had one the year before.
Well, they did, and I like the idea of an operating account because it would balance out if there was an odd year.
Where you get the
but-
spikes and valleys, so that, you know,
That's right.
you can avoid, let's say if all of a sudden, we had a bad year this year, we had to spend $200,000 extra on our snow removal, we'd have it there. Or if, you know, for one reason or another, we had to bring in for 1 year an extra employee in the office, or for public works, let's say with, we wanted to do a little more aggressive on our trail maintenance or something in 1 year, so public works comes along and said, okay, we'll need to hire an extra 3 people this summer. Well, rather than increasing the operating expense and expect that to come out of taxes, we'd have a reserve set aside that. So what I used to refer to in other communities was a rate stabilization reserve. So it would keep your mill rate sort of stabilized, hopefully. You build it up, you put it in there, and then when you need it, you have it.
Well, I would suggest, my suggestion would be if you could revamp it, you think these two should be at the end.
Amalgamate it at the end with a little less than what was in this one, and more of a direction towards where we need to be. I can talk to some of the other communities who have, you know, there's other people that have these type of things in place, so it's just a matter of getting on the phone and, you know, or sending an email out, and we get an email back. But, say help, and most people are pretty good at coming back to it. AUMA sometimes has some best practices also, so there's some stuff available there. So, but it'll take a while to draft it, put it together, especially with the other things that are still going on with budget and all the other pressures, viruses in the computer system, whatever, the day-to-day operation, but put some time towards it, I think it'd be well worth it, and make things a lot easier working on the budget.
Okay, so we have this for information only. Do you need a motion after that to give you direction?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I would like to see some direction, just basically to pose a draft policy based on our discussions, and to bring it back to council at a future date.
Okay, so
So
the motion for information,
I can rescind that motion before we vote on it,
Yep.
and then
Go ahead.
I'll make a
Yep.
new motion
okay?
that, council directs administration to draft up a new reserve policy that would replace the two that we have already in existence.
Now, there is one other policy also that's confirmed in there. And that's a financial control policy.
So policy 12-2000.
Is the
You want
reserve
both?
policy that we want to redo, or
And
actually
you also want
amalgamate that with policy.
55-2013
That's correct.
out.
Yeah, I'd like one policy that deals
Okay.
with them
So both of those
both out,
are
one new one in, that's what I'd like to see.
rescinded.
And I don't know, do you want a date on that, or do you wanna leave it open till February? I don't know, I'm just
I think
asking.
it would have to be prior to the final budget presentation, because,
Well, that's not much time for you.
well, this is where we're talking.
Oh, final budget,
Final
sorry,
budget
fine, sorry,
presentation,
yes.
because we're dealing with, in there, we're gonna have to have in our operating budget, we're gonna have to have allocations to reserves.
So look at the second meeting in January or something like that.
Well,
to
we
bring
don't
this-
do, our final is much later than that, because we gotta get,
We can bring a draft, I think, by the.
26th of January?
Yeah, I think we should be okay for a draft by then, if that's okay with council.
if that's all right, because I'm asking you when you'll be able to get it, because I know you're gonna have year-end stuff to do in
At that same
January
time,
too,
yeah.
yeah.
I've got Christmas Day and Boxing Day.
Yeah.
Not Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and I don't like to wear Christmas decorations.
We're gonna get you to read it back, so.
I don't have it all.
Well, you didn't get it all?
Not all, I have that council directs administration to draft up a new reserve policy that would replace guess, 12/2000 and 55/2013
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
that we already have in place.
And bring back to council,
and
Based on the discussions.
and bring a draft copy, well, you got a draft in there already, and bring a copy back to the January 26th regular meeting of council.
is that too early though, January 26th? That's my only question.
I think for the initial draft,
For
I think
draft.
that'll be okay. Then we'll get to council. I don't wanna go too far in putting this thing in stone and then find out that something council wants to add to it.
Okay. If you can get her done, we can read it, no problem.
Okay, any other discussion on this? All in favor? Councillor Enter, and I think we'll finish finance and then take a break.
So we're on 5A8. Make a motion that council receive the presentation regarding the town hyper investments for information.
Okay, discussion on it, Councillor Enter?
Yep. Reading the policy that's in effect already, I've never heard of the investment committee. I don't think anybody's actually met to discuss or to review. So I actually like the policy too. I don't mind the policy at all, as it stands right now. It's very black and white. It lays things out directly, what risks and our goals are. It says who's on the committee. There's 3 members, a council member, the CAO, and it was treasurer, or manager, which is the CAO. So I like that. I do prefer it over the one that was presented as a possible replacement or as a guideline of what's different. I prefer the older one. They're the current version.
Which is the new one, page 1?
84. Some of the things that on there on page 84,
Oh, I see, okay.
securities of Canadian municipality, school division, school district, hospital district, health region, under the Regional Health Authorities Act. We don't actually have any hospital districts anymore, and there's only the one health region. I don't know if we're looking at other health regions or other hospital districts, but
What the intent of this was provided by the commercial provider, the
okay,
advisor.
so he
this
just
is a
says a
template that
blank-
applies for everybody, then you just go strike out what you don't need and apply what you do need. Basically, with the investment side of it, we're fairly well regulated by the Municipal Government Act,
Yeah.
what investments we can take out. And so basically what I've done with other places, whether it's been with CIBC, Wood Gundy, or whichever investment firm I've worked with, is say, okay, I've got money, and most of the money we would have would be on a short-term basis, whether it be 90 days, 6 months, nothing over a year. And E&D is good for that, because that's basically what they specialize in. But you go to them and say, I've got this many dollars for, say, 90 days, they'll go through the list of what options they have available to them, they'll come back and say, okay, the best money we have is CIBC has got a 90-day note out there right now, and it's offering this percentage payback. And so basically then you just say yes at that time. There's no requirement for a committee as such. As long as it meets the requirement of the Municipal Government Act, that we have the funds available in the account to roll over, and no requirement in the foreseeable future for that money for the number of days that it's invested for. And you try and get the highest return you can, but at the same time you do some cash forecasting.
I think what the committee could be used for though is the choosing of the investment group or where it goes, how it goes.
Yeah.
So that there's, AUMA is good, but it's its own little entity, and I'm kind of curious what their fees are, right? And back end, front end, how they're actually done. I'd be looking at that. 'Cause
Basically, all
I
of
don't like
these
their
is
electrical
all,
rates.
yeah, there's no fees on top of it, it's all included in. AUMA, their Munifunds is a non-profit. It's basically their money is all returned back through the payouts. Whereas the other ones, there is a profit involved for it, their business.
I would still ask them for the fees, because
Yeah, and they
I'm
come in-
thinking that there's gonna be a back end fee, so that when it's cashed, they just got a percentage of.
What
running-
they were saying
flowing through 'em.
is about a 1.9%
That's actually.
of the revenue, not of the investment.
Okay, I was gonna get
Yeah.
really not.
At 1.9% of the investment, you're
It's
never
when
gonna
you're
get $90.
talking low risk security, things like that, that's a really high
Yeah.
rate, like that's,
but just
So,
other revenue.
it's almost
the
at,
profit.
Councillor,
commodities.
Long?
So when I looked at this and then saw yet again another policy that's not being followed and hasn't been followed, I came in and I went to come see you, but you weren't here, so I sat down with Brian. And basically what I got out of it was that we need to allow administration to create a new policy. Our policy isn't working at all. And so if we give them an opportunity to develop a new policy, bring it back to us into January, another January one for you. But, and then that, my thought is that they bring it back in January and then council allows the administration to work with the investment advisor firm who they feel will best meet the needs of the town.
And they will come make the presentation to council.
You know, yeah, I mean, they would come in and make that presentation. I don't know if we need to, again, get our fingers into the pie. Let the administration do the job that they're supposed to do and act on the best.
And with the investments, usually what is part of the policy is there'd also review your report back on a monthly basis to council of the money that's in investments, which investments are in, so that, you know, not that we should be uncomfortable with anything, but I know when I was with the Cypress View Foundation, you know, the best rate at the time happened to be Quebec Energy one year, had some money they were looking for 90-day notes, and so we said, okay, put it in 90-day notes, not realizing that when you're here in Alberta, they don't really care about Quebec Energy, whether they're the best rate or not, so they were a little more sensitive about that stuff. You know, there was an informal thing that said, okay, in the future, Alberta investments, you know, at the best rate. They didn't write it down in paper, but that report comes to council every month to see how much is in there, which ones the investments are, and what the returns are.
Councillor Hampton?
Like I said, I actually do like the policy. Our only problem is we have either unaware of it, which is what's most likely the event for all of us, so it wasn't being followed.
Right.
So if we actually ran with it, it might work quite well. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's laid out black and white, really easy. They meet once a year, right? It's once a year. Once it's in place, it should be very simple, straightforward.
Okay, what's the motion?
Receive for information.
Receive for information. And what are you looking for? Direction on this?
Exactly. Whether
Okay.
we want to massage the policy, bring it back, and ask for a couple of presentations from I think it was 2 or 3 groups I talked with. Raymond James Limited, Jason Oreto with that group, or with the Unifunds B group.
Let's start with just the policy. We'll just
And
deal
we'll
with
work
one
from
issue
there.
first.
All right, so
And-
it's for information only.
Okay, yeah, and my question to you is, what do you think of the policy on this? Like the existing policy?
It's not bad.
Would you make changes?
I would make a few
Okay,
minor
so
changes.
the treasurer has recommended that it should be for change, there should be changes. Who made the motion?
Quentin did.
Quentin. Are you satisfied with the motion that you received for information? Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
I'm still thinking about that, sorry. I'm just trying to figure out, if we vote for information,
Somebody can make another motion, it just gets received for information.
okay, but it's not forgotten about, cause I think where we wanna make a motion. Okay, then I would be in favor of for information.
Okay, so it's
If my
carried,
mind
it's
wasn't-
been received for information. Does
Okay.
somebody want to make a motion to direct administration to do something else? Councillor Long.
I have it written out. That administration develops a new investment policy to meet the needs of the town, bring back to the council meeting in January 2016. And that council allows administration to work with investment advisor or firm who they feel best meets the town's needs.
Okay, so that motion is that they're gonna revamp this policy and they are going to, administration is going to choose the investment vehicles that are best for the town.
Well, my thoughts is that we should just deal with the policy, and then the policy will tell us whether or not it's gonna be, who's gonna do it, and for example, should there be an investment committee, or should it just come to council? those would
Okay.
be questions that I would have, and or maybe it's just administration goes ahead and does
But
it.
that would be part of the policy.
Part of the
Do you
policy.
want
It
to
would be
drop
part of
that
the
second
policy.
portion of it?
Yeah, let's see what they come up with.
Okay?
I can do that, I guess.
So she's gonna give you the wording, but it is basically draft a new policy, bring it back in January for us to review. All right, any other discussion on this? All in favor? Opposed? And just out of curiosity, because we're having a break now, why were you opposed?